Right, welcome to day 5. And on day 5, we're going to be dealing with input and output classes that we'll be using for input and output to your Java application. Now, video 1 on day 5, we'll be looking at homework revision. Now, just quickly, let's look at the questions that you were given. Question 1 dealt with a primitive array. Question 2, we were looking at an array list. And then question 3 dealt with a hash map. Now, what I intend doing revision on question 1, and that was the primitive array type, and there's good reason for that. These primitive arrays are super efficient to start with, and a lot of us use it where possible. That doesn't mean that array lists and other collections are not used for convenience. We use them, but we also make sure that we use the primitive arrays where possible. Now let's look at this. You were asked to write an application representing salaries, and you were given a few tasks to perform on this array. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump straight into the code, and we will have a look at how we approached this and what we did. Right, here I created a test program called day for Q1 as was required, and then you'll see on line 9 I created a primitive array of data type double, and I instantiated it as a 200 element array. Now you'll also notice that I was instructed to find the highest, the lowest salary values within that array. So I have reserved name memory locations to store that. And then I've also included a name memory location called sum, because I'd like to find out what the average is. So obviously every entry into the array I need to sum. Now on line 12 you'll see the first loop. I'm going to go through the array from position 0 all the way to the length -1. Now in my particular case the test condition is position less than salaries.length, which will take me to position 199 will be my last position. Then if you have a look at line 14, I am assigning to the array whatever the position is of the loop math.random times 20,001 plus 5,000. So it should give me values between 5,000 and about 25,000, I would imagine. And then also, if you look at line number 15, I say sum is assigned sum, whatever was in sum before, plus whatever the new value is into the array, the new position in the array. And then I printed out the value of the element at this particular position. Okay, so that was pretty straightforward. Now, once I'd finished that particular loop, have a look on line number 18. I could work out the average because through that first loop, I kept track of the sum. So I knew that if I took the sum and I divided it by the length of the array salaries, okay, because the length is 200, then I would have the average. So the sum divided by 200 would give me the average. Okay, now here's something which is very interesting, and I really would like to point this out to you, because this is the trick. On line 20 and 21, you'll notice that I assigned a value. It can be any value from the array. I assigned it position 0 and position 0. And the reason for that is you can't go and assign 0 to the lowest, because what happens if the lowest happens to be 5,001? You can't assign 5,000 to lowest, because what happens if the lowest is 10,000? And the highest, you can't assign a value of highest to, let's say, 5,000 or 5,010. What happens if the highest is 5,002? So you take any value from the array itself and you assign it to that as its starting value or default value. And then what I did in line number 23, let me just scroll up. So we'll scroll up. So from line 22 through to line 32, in that particular loop, I've gone through the array and I've checked. Every time I get to a new position in the array, I will check to see if highest is less than the salaries at that position. If so, then I'll assign salary position to highest. And then I'll check if lowest is greater than salaries at that position, then I'll assign salaries to lowest. And of course, once I've gone through the loop, I should have highest value in highest and the lowest value in lowest. I'll then print that out. Then the last thing that I asked you to do was, well, not the last thing, the second last thing that I asked you to do was I asked you to sort it. Now, we had not done this in particular in the theory, but there is a way of doing it. There is something called arrays. You can look it up in the documentation and you'll find it there. Arrays.sort, and you put in the whole array. So you'll see on line number 37, arrays.sort, and it'll sort it for you. And it'll sort it in from smallest to biggest. And then what I did in the loop from 38 to 41 is I printed it out so you could see that it was sorted. The last task that you were required to do was you were required to add 5% to each of the salaries within that array. And you'll see on line 46 that's exactly what I've done. And I then printed it out. So this is the code for solution of question 1. And I hope that you had some fun doing it and that you got it correct. Now let's execute the program and have a look at the results. So here is the first salaries, okay? And then if I scroll down just a little bit quicker, let me get to 200. Here is the highest value within that first array and the lowest value. And then it's sorted. And you can see immediately that it's sorted because I am going from lowest to highest. Then let me scroll down rather rapidly. We'll scroll up rather rapidly. And you can find that down here, I've added 5%. So here I've added 5%. And you can see from here at position 0, 5387, and this position 0, 5131, you add 5% to that and you'll see that that total is correct. This brings us to the end of your homework revision.